Hi everyone, my name is Estella. This story is about my mother-in-law, who seemed determined to make my life difficult. From the start, my mother-in-law, Lisa, never liked me. She's a bit old-fashioned but often takes it too far. My husband, Rhett, and I lived far away from them for years, so Lisa couldn't do much to bother me. But when Rhett got a better job near them, we moved closer, and I found myself dealing with her again. I wouldn't have minded handling Lisa because I grew up with toxic and controlling parents, so I knew how to deal with people like that. Plus, my father-in-law, Vince, was always supportive of me. The real problem started when Lisa had access to my 8-year-old daughter, Julie. Julie is a sweet child who loves being around her family. Since we were already not talking to my parents, Vince and Lisa were the only grandparents she had. I tried to put my issues with Lisa aside so Julie could have a good relationship with them. Rhett also thought his family was important, so cutting Lisa off wasn't an option. Vince and Lisa were loving towards Julie, but Lisa had one big issue. She would always say, "I don't like how you feed Julie, Estella. She's not eating everything she should. She needs more nuts for protein. You're taking away good food from her meals." I would reply, "That's because she's allergic to nuts, Lisa. I've told you before that even the smell of nuts can cause a serious reaction." But Lisa wouldn't listen. She'd say, "That's nonsense, Estella. If you keep babying Julie like this, she'll never outgrow her allergies. You need to expose her to those foods so she can overcome her allergies. What you're doing is wrong. You're depriving her of nutrients and being a bad mother. But I expected that from you." I would explain, "Lisa, we've consulted a pediatrician, and we feed Julie balanced meals. People can live without eating nuts, but Julie will have a severe health issue if she eats them." But Lisa never accepted what I said or what the doctor advised. She was convinced that exposing Julie to nuts was the only way to get rid of the allergies. I was tired of explaining that Julie simply couldn't have food she was allergic to. Lisa would just call me a bad mother and try to convince Julie to eat the foods she was allergic to. Thankfully, Julie knew what could happen if she ate those foods, so she always refused. I decided to talk to Rhett because I was getting more and more worried about Lisa. I told him, "Rhett, I'm having trouble leaving Julie alone with Lisa. She's ignoring my warnings and trying to feed Julie what she wants. I'm afraid she'll sneak some allergens into her food for exposure therapy." Rhett responded, "Don't be ridiculous, Estella. My mom might be old-fashioned, but she knows what she shouldn't do. Besides, Dad is always there to stop her from experimenting. Julie loves spending time with her grandparents. We can't just tell her to stop seeing them." But I insisted, "Lisa isn't changing her attitude about allergies, and I'm really worried about Julie's safety. We need to do something because I'm sick with worry every time Julie is with them without me." Rhett tried to reassure me, saying, "Relax, Estella. There's no need to cut off my parents over something so small. Julie needs the love of her grandparents, and she's happy with them. Since you're so worried, I'll talk to my mom. I'm sure she'll listen to me." Rhett's words were true in one way. Julie really did love her grandparents. I couldn't bear to tell her to stop seeing them. If Julie had ever told me she didn't want to see them, I would have listened. I would have stopped it right away if I had known that no one could control Lisa. Even Rhett couldn't get Lisa to change her ways, and her stubbornness led to terrible consequences for Julie. It all happened at Julie's 10th birthday party. Of course, Vince and Lisa were invited, and they promised to come. Lisa seemed unusually excited about the party, which made me feel uneasy, though I didn't know why. Deep down, I knew something was going to go wrong. Vince and Lisa were among the first guests to arrive, which surprised me since Lisa usually didn't want to spend much time around me. Lisa was carrying a big square box wrapped in birthday-themed paper. She handed it to Julie and said, "Happy birthday, dear Julie. Here's your gift. Grandma has got you the best gift ever." "Thank you so much, Grandma. The gift is so big." "What's in it?" Julie asked excitedly. "I don't know, Julie," Vince replied. "Grandma picked the gift herself and wouldn't even tell me what it is. We'll both find out when you open it. Here, Julie, open Grandma's gift and see what she got you. I'm sure you'll love it. It'll be your absolute favorite." Lisa encouraged. "Really, Grandma? I can't wait to see what you gave me. I'm so excited," Julie said with enthusiasm. "We can open all the gifts after cutting the cake, Julie. Let all your friends come first, And then you can start opening presents, I suggested. No, 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 no. You need to let Julie open my gift before she cuts the cake. That's the whole reason I came early, to give her my gift. Lisa insisted. I started getting suspicious because Lisa was acting strange, but Julie looked so happy to get a nice gift from her grandma. The gift was big and heavy, so she was really eager to open it. Since Julie was so excited, I let her start opening her gifts when all her friends arrived. Lisa had told Julie the gift needed to be opened before the cake, and Julie was really determined to do it that way. I didn't want to make her sad on her birthday, so I agreed. But I had no idea how disastrous it would be. On her birthday, Julie and I were betrayed by the one person we were supposed to trust. Lisa not only ruined Julie's birthday but also turned everyone against her. As soon as Julie opened her gift, she found a big cake inside the box with her name on it. Her happiness lasted only a minute before she suddenly passed out. Rhett and I rushed to our daughter, terrified and confused about what had happened. Then I noticed her throat swelling up and I was in shock. Rhett ran to get the EpiPen while someone else called the police. I knew who was responsible, so I turned to Lisa and demanded, "Lisa, what did you give Julie? What's in that cake?" "Nothing, Estella. It's just a normal cake. I don't understand what happened. You must have done something to make Julie faint. I warned you this would happen because you haven't been giving her proper nutrition." Lisa responded, trying to shift the blame onto me. "Don't try to blame me, Lisa. She was happy and fine just a moment ago, and now she looks like she's having an allergic reaction. Tell me what you did," I shouted, panic rising in my voice. "Lisa, you better not have put something in that cake. I knew I should have kept an eye on you when you promised to get her the best gift ever. Look at Julie, she's turning blue," I yelled, fear gripping my heart. I ignored Lisa and focused on Julie. Rhett came running with the EpiPen, and I quickly used it on our daughter. While the swelling in her throat went down a bit, she was still unconscious. We knew that taking her to the hospital was the only way to save her completely. Everyone in the room was extremely worried about Julie. I had tears in my eyes, and Rhett looked like he was about to cry too. Lisa was already crying and looked a little scared. At that moment, I decided to cut open the cake to find out what was inside. What I found shocked me to my core. Why on earth did you give my daughter a cake filled with nuts? Are you insane, Lisa? I've told you countless times that she's allergic to nuts. What's wrong with you? You ignored my warnings and put nuts in the cake anyway. How could you be so stupid? Lisa tried to defend herself, saying I was only trying to help Julie. I didn't mean to hurt her. I hated that Estella was keeping her from eating so much good food. Yes, she might have a bad reaction sometimes, but exposure to nuts would have solved the problem. Rhett was furious and shouted, "Mom, are you freaking insane? My daughter is allergic to nuts. She could have died from this reaction. Who gave you the right to decide how to handle her allergies? Look at what you've done." Lisa, still in denial, said, "I'm her grandmother, Rhett. I have the right to look after my baby. I'm telling you, she'll be fine after a while. You all are overreacting just to scare me and punish me for nothing. I bet this is all Estella's plan to make me look bad." I was livid and warned Lisa, "If I had my way with you today, you'd pay dearly for what you've done. But right now, making sure my daughter is okay is more important." As I finished speaking, the ambulance arrived with the paramedics. They took care of Julie and rushed her to the hospital with us. The doctors there said that Julie would need time to wake up and would have to stay in the hospital for a day or two. I completely broke down in the hospital, crying in Rhett's arms. He held me tight, and we comforted each other. After I pulled myself together, Rhett called Vince to let everyone know that Julie was no longer in danger. When Rhett hung up the call, I looked at him and said, "Rhett, I will never forgive Lisa for what happened today. Do you realize she could have killed our daughter?" Rhett replied, "I've been thinking about it, Estella. Trust me, I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. My mother has turned so cruel that I don't even recognize her anymore. Lisa did this just to prove that you're a bad mother. She pretended she wanted Julie to be happy, but she didn't even stop to think that she was putting her in danger. Even after everything, she kept saying that you staged the whole thing. Estella, today I realized how far my mother can go to make you look bad. I can't tell you how sorry I am. I should have limited her presence in our lives a lot sooner. I failed to protect Julie from my mother. I feel like a bad husband and an even worse father, Rhett said, starting to understand the seriousness of the situation. While Vince had been a good grandfather, Lisa had crossed all boundaries that day. She had gotten away with all her previous stunts, but this time we weren't going to let her off easily. My husband and I had a serious discussion about the situation and made a decision right then and there, while Julie was still in the hospital. When we decided to go back home, Vince, Lisa, and a few guests had stayed behind to get updates on Julie's condition. It was the perfect time to confront Lisa. By the time we returned home, it had been 2 hours since the incident. We found Lisa and Vince sitting in the living room. Vince was still scolding Lisa while she ignored him and typed away on her phone. Beside them lay the real birthday cake that Julie didn't even get a chance to cut. The sight brought tears to my eyes again, but I held them back. As soon as they saw us, Vince and Lisa rushed over to us. I said, "Julie is in good hands now, and she will recover soon. She's still unconscious, but the doctors are positive she'll wake up soon." Vince sighed in relief. Thank God Julie is all right. I was going insane with worry about her condition. But Lisa, still in her delusion, said, "See, there was nothing to worry about. It wasn't even a big deal. Julie will be fine, and her immunity against nuts will improve in no time. Her allergies will be gone. I told you I know what's best." At that moment, Rhett couldn't hold back anymore. He started to yell at Lisa, tearing into her for everything she had done. Vince also joined in, giving Lisa a piece of his mind. The guests were shocked, looking at Lisa with disgust. I was burning with anger too. I said, "Enough is enough, Lisa. We've given you multiple chances to prove yourself, but even after sending my daughter to the hospital, you have no remorse for your actions. This is the last straw. We will never allow you near our or Julie's life again. You are banned from this house too." Lisa snapped back, "You have no right to tell me where I can or cannot go. My son won't allow you to cut me off over nothing. I know this is all you ever wanted, but I won't let you take away my granddaughter just because I don't agree with your parenting. Rhett knows I'm right, and he will support me." But Rhett firmly said, "Absolutely not, Mom. You will never come near me or my family again. Dad is welcome here anytime since he's the only sane grandparent Julie has. He even tried his best to stop you from hurting Julie, but today you sent Julie to the hospital, and you're still claiming you did the right thing. I don't want someone so cruel around my daughter." Lisa couldn't believe her own son was turning against her. She had always trusted Rhett to defend her, but what she didn't realize was that Rhett was a reasonable man, not deluded like her. Even the guests started to berate her, making Lisa realize she had nowhere to turn. Vince wasn't on her side either. She started screaming, "Estella, this is your fault. You set me up to humiliate me, and now you've turned everyone against me. I won't forgive you for this. You should be the one begging for forgiveness. You've ruined your own name and taken yourself away from Julie. You'll never see her again." I calmly replied, "Good luck trying to get grandparents' rights when you're rotting in jail. I bet the judge would find it amusing for a felon to ask for visitation rights after endangering her own granddaughter." Lisa's eyes widened in panic. "What do you mean, Estella? Why would I go to jail? I haven't done anything wrong." "What you did is a crime, Lisa. Exposing a child to allergens knowingly is considered a form of poisoning. I bet you didn't know that, but Rhett and I do, and we've called the police on you. You hear those sirens? They're coming to arrest you." No, you're lying. This can't be happening. You can't get me arrested for this." Lisa was in tears, begging us to drop the charges, but when 2 officers walked in and told her she was under arrest, she started holding onto our hands, pleading not to be sent to jail. Rhett didn't even look at her and told the cops to drag her away. I just gave her a cold stare and told her that her game was up. Lisa then turned to Vince, begging him, "Vince, do something, please. You can't let your wife get arrested like this." But Vince shook his head and said, "When my wife does something truly horrifying and shows no remorse, I will not protect her. Lisa, I've warned you for years to change your ways, but you never listened. Today you put our only granddaughter in danger." Lisa cried, "I was only doing this for her own good. I never knew it would hurt her so badly. Please, Vince, I'm your wife. You need to help me. Rhett has already kicked me out of his life." Vince replied firmly, "Rhett did the right thing, Lisa. In fact, it's what I'm going to do too." Tomorrow, I'm talking to a divorce lawyer. I'm done with you. There's no way I'm staying with a psycho like you anymore. This time, I'm protecting my granddaughter and my kids from your presence. No, 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 Vince, you can't do this to me. I'm your wife. Lisa cried out, but Vince told the cops to take her away. Lisa was crying the entire time, begging for help. The party had ended a long time ago, but now I felt a little bit at peace. Rhett, Vince, and I all returned to the hospital after the guests left. The guests were also angry with Lisa and said they would tell everyone what a horrible person she was. The next day, our little Julie woke up and was doing much better, but she seemed extremely scared of Lisa. She kept crying and begged us to keep Lisa away from her. Mom, Dad, I don't want to be near Grandma again. She always tries to make me eat things that I know will give me allergies. Grandpa stopped her every time, but I don't want to be with Grandma again. Julie, I promise you, Grandma will never hurt you again. She won't be in our lives anymore. You love Grandpa, right? He'll be around, but Grandma won't be near you anymore. It's a promise. Julie was traumatized by what had happened, so we signed her up with a child therapist to help her sort through her emotions. Rhett and I also started couples therapy to improve our communication. We're doing much better as a family now, and it really helps to have a supportive man like Vince around us. Meanwhile, Lisa's life quickly went downhill. When her own family found out about her actions, they scolded her and cut her off. Even her friends were disgusted and didn't want anything to do with her. Lisa was left crying and begging everyone for bail money, but no one helped. Vince filed for divorce the next day, and Lisa was served the papers while she was still in jail. She lost her mind when she received the papers, screaming in her holding cell. Months passed and Vince was able to get an easy divorce from Lisa, thanks to the police report. We live in an at-fault state, so that helped. As for Lisa, she was sent to jail. The judge ordered her to pay us money for medical bills, but since she didn't have any, she got a long sentence. We filed restraining orders against her, so she's legally required to stay away from our family. We're positive she won't be able to come near us again, but if she tries, she'll have to deal with Mama and Papa Bear, who will do anything to protect Julie.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.